Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Jerry9s and we're going to do another episode of our online firearms academy. I think this is episode number 6. We're going to talk about the basics of ammunition. This is going to be a relatively short video. I just want to make sure that we're all at the same level of understanding when it comes to our cartridges, our ammunition, before we get into what will be the next videos, which will be double action, single action, what we mean by those things, so the actions of our firearms. But again, right now we're going to talk about ammunition. Now, I want to point out that we have, I guess, an unexpected guest in the studio today, and that is an actual live round of ammunition. Normally, we don't allow live ammunition into the classroom. We don't allow live ammunition into the studio. And so for this portion of today's video, we just made sure that any firearms are out of the way so that we don't ever mix live ammunition firearms we don't want to. So here is a round of ammunition. This is a round of 9mm. This is what we call full metal jacket. Sometimes colloquially it is referred to as ball ammunition. And basically what that means is that this is a solid projectile, and it is just sort of a very basic projectile, I guess you could say. Now, our ammunition is essentially made up of 4 major components. One of those components is, we sometimes call this like a bullet. Oh, he's got 9 bullets in his hand, or his gun holds 10 bullets. A bullet is actually the projectile. So if we look at this particular casing, or this particular round of ammunition, we have the bullet, which is the projectile part. That sits in here depending upon the type of cartridge we're talking about. Maybe 3.5, 4mm. It's pressed in with a press normally. That sits into the cartridge case, which is this, in this case, brass case that holds a charge of gunpowder inside of there. And then on the back, we kind of see like I don't know if we can get that to focus or not, but like a circle within a circle. And that is that circle in the middle is called the primer. So the primer is some very pressure sensitive, impact sensitive explosives, a very, very small amount in there. And what that does is when the firing pin or whatever mechanism it is that hits the back of the cartridge when it's loaded in the firearm, that sends a spark into that main powder charge, which burns very rapidly. It doesn't explode, by the way. It goes off with a bang, but it's actually rapidly burning, which builds pressure and pushes the projectile out of the muzzle. And that is, in a nutshell, what's happening. So again, 4 basic components: the bullet or projectile, the case, which holds everything else together, the bullet, the powder charge, which is inside here, and then that primer. And so those are our 4 components. Now, because I did mention the fact that this is a full metal jacket round, or sometimes what's called ball ammunition, I do want to point out that there are different types of projectiles. This is a hollow point projectile. Again, I'll see if I can't get this to focus a little bit. And hollow point projectiles, I think that sometimes in the press they're demonized. Really what they do is they allow for a controlled expansion, a controlled deformation, to allow for the bullet to essentially become a larger diameter than it is, just to maximize effectiveness and stopping power. So this is a live round with some with a hollow point bullet. Just to give you kind of an idea of that case, so here is an example of an empty cartridge case. If we look on the back there, we can see that the little dimple where the firing pin has impacted the primer. And then if we look at the cartridge case, we can see that this is just an empty shell, and no projectile, of course, and no powder inside. If you find yourself in a survival situation in the woods, you can use one of these, make kind of a nice little whistle. So that's that. The last thing I want to talk about is that on the channel we've seen where I've had to replicate the firing action and replicate the movement of the ammunition through the gun. And so in that case we use things called snap caps. I have two examples here. The one that we've used thus far is this snap cap that is essentially, again, it's a dummy cartridge. There's no charge in here. There's no primer. There is no gunpowder charge. And where the bullet would be is a plastic cone that would replicate the bullet, okay? So that is one example of a snap cap. Please don't ever think that just because what looks like a cartridge has an orange or a red tip that means it's absolutely safe. You'd want to look. In this case, we can see there's no primer there. You want to make sure something is a snap cap before you would actually treat it as such. Here's another example of a snap cap. This one is monochromatic, for those of you with the word of the day calendar. For those of us that don't have those, that just means it's all one color. This is actually just milled out of a single block of aluminum, and it does not have a primer, but it has some rubberized material in the primer pocket, which leads us to just one more, I guess, reason why you'd want to use snap caps. Some people believe, and this is certainly not something I want to get into a big debate about, that you don't want to dry fire or fire without any ammunition in any of your guns. I will say that any center fire firearm or modern manufacturer, you should feel safe dry firing. And in fact, dry firing is great practice and something you can do for, of course, for no money once you have the firearm, because essentially you're just going ahead and you're practicing everything else, your grip, maybe your sight alignment, your trigger squeeze, but you just get a click instead of a bang. And you can do that with a properly cleared firearm in a safe place. I do it down here in the basement, and you know, it's something that is useful. But these snap caps do allow you to practice loading, practice unloading, showing clear, malfunction drills, etc. So snap caps are good. They're usually sold in like lots of you go and you get them at a gun store, and they come like 5 or 6 in a box, and they're really useful. So, but again, just be careful that you are making sure that what you think is a snap cap is a snap cap. Again, just to recap, your ammunition, 4 basic components: your bullet or projectile, your casing, which holds everything together, the gunpowder, which is the actual charge, and then that primer on the back. Hey, this is Jerry9s, thanking you for your time today, and we'll be going on to our next episode, which is going to be single action firearms. So that's going to be the beginning of kind of a mini series within the Online Firearms Academy. First we'll go single action, then double action, and then variations on that theme. I'll go ahead and put that next video here so you can see it and enjoy, and I hope you learned something. Thanks so much. Appreciate you taking the time. God bless America.